welcome to Modern Home Mastermind with Bespoke Brokers. I'm Shauna Glazier, designated broker and owner.
And I'm Brittany Williamson, associate broker at Bespoke Real Estate. Shauna and I are Bespoke Real Estate, and we are also your guides to modern luxury across the entire state of Arizona.
Each week, we speak with masterminds shaping the modern spaces. Do you want to get a behind-the-scenes look at your design build team's processes? Open communication and teamwork will lead to a successful project.
From architects to builders, designers, and more, let's explore the art of modern living together.
All right. Welcome back, listeners. Are you familiar with the new rules regarding ADUs? Do you know what an ADU is? An ADU is an accessory dwelling unit, which can mean anything from a guest house, a detached guest house, a gym, an office, etc. Today's guests are Zander and Jared, and they are experts in those spaces.
Right. So Zander and Jared co-founded Minimal Living Concepts, which focuses primarily on building modern ADUs. Their goal is to provide clients with what they describe as the world's most seamless path to buying new construction online. Is that correct?
Sounds right.
Right. So from designing and permitting to building and completion of the ADU, they provide simple options. This is good. Transparent pricing, which I think people will love, and a complete execution timeline upfront, which they say leads to a smooth customer experience. Did I cover most of it?
Yeah.
It's almost like you went to our website.
I may have read a couple articles as well.
All right. Well, welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
It would be great if we just start, if you tell us a little bit about your story, and if you could briefly also include just the rule changes in the Valley and what's going on.
You want us to go all the way back?
It's up to you. What do you think our listeners need to know or want to know?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. We'll start sort of from the beginning. Basically, Jared and I met in LA. We both had a marketing background. He had a marketing agency. I did as well. And both of us also come from real estate families. And so I had gotten kind of tired of what I was doing and got my real estate license, started selling high-end luxury real estate in LA. Was fairly successful doing that. And then Jared was kind of, on a friend level, sort of like, hey, I'm kind of not really loving what I'm doing either. And it was like, dude, your family's in real estate. You should come do real estate. Let's try to find something to do. And we started sort of trying to figure out what doing some development project might look like. And essentially that was us running around LA, doing all sorts of stuff, trying to figure out the market, meeting with 30 contractors. We were driving to like probate sales in the middle of Silmar, just doing literally just trying to figure it out. Yeah. We had really no formal experience and no guidance on the development side of things. And we started to get an understanding of kind of pricing and what a relationship with a contractor might look like, but we knew really nothing. And we kind of had a soft commitment for some capital to go flip a house. And we were probably a couple of weeks away from making a purchase or an attempted purchase on a property, and COVID hits. Mm-hmm. Obviously, everybody shuts down. Everyone's playing Call of Duty. We're all hanging out. And Jared starts kind of going back to Arizona because he's from Arizona originally. He starts coming back, seeing his family. And he starts calling me and he's like, dude, there's cranes everywhere. COVID doesn't exist here. All the restaurants are open. There's crazy building going on. We can do way more with our money here. We should take a look at this, basically. So I started driving out on the weekends. After about, 6-8 months of that, something like that, we sort of just committed.
Way faster.
It was faster than that. Yeah, maybe it was 3 months.
Month.
Yeah, it was fast.
It was fast.
And so I left what I was doing, rented an apartment. Jared was getting stationed out here as well. And we basically did exactly what we were doing in LA in Arizona. We started meeting with everybody, understanding neighborhoods, pricing. Initially, we thought we were going to go out and build a spec home. And just through kind of a weird situation, we end up looking at a multifamily project to build 15 townhomes, about 32,000 square feet. Zero building experience, zero development experience. We're able to raise the capital to do that. We end up purchasing that property as an acre in Central Phoenix, right off of Maryland. And we sort of, through meeting the wrong people, we sort of look at rezoning this property. We go through this rezoning process. We're going through the design process. We're bidding with contractors. And really, it was through that experience that that kind of shaped our perspective on the industry and kind of what was wrong with it. And what we experienced was what I think a lot of homeowners and even just developers experience, which is the whole process is so decentralized. Architects make more money if the project is more complicated, if the design takes more time, if they screw up your design and then you have to do more revisions. So they benefit while you lose. The contractor, if the project gets more expensive, they benefit because their change orders, they're marking up. And so we kind of took a step back and looked at this whole experience and we were like, this doesn't make sense.
I think the other challenge too is like, even within whether you're like the rezoning process, the design process, the construction process, no one can really ever tell you exactly how long it's going to take, when it's going to be done, how much it's going to cost. They can give you these weird ballpark estimates with like all these allowances and other items in there, which for a lot of people just doesn't work. And I think that's pretty much the same experience that people have, whether you're doing a remodel or trying to do a new build or build a guest house or build townhomes or whatever it might be. It's just a really broken up process with a huge lack of clarity.
No guarantees.
You guys have created a product that is straightforward,
and just predictable. Yeah, just removes a lot of that uncertainty, especially now that we've done these things so many times. I mean, we're doing our 106th one of these now. And so we know down to the nail what it costs. We know exactly how to execute the projects and how long they're going to take, which is just hugely beneficial for our clients.
So did you finish that project that you're talking about?
So we're in the middle of rezoning that project. It's, I wouldn't say it's going poorly. It just was going the way that process goes, which is kind of poorly for anybody. Just really weird rezoning process with the city. Like the people who vote on your case are volunteers. All of them are developers. So people that you're actively competing with for properties,
in the same neighborhood. They're building in the same neighborhood as you.
They're determining the fate of your project.
And not only that, they're determining the design of your project.
Yeah.
And they're building a project of the street.
Yeah. So
it's crazy.
And a real example of what happened. We're in, is it Planning Commission or Village Committee? Whatever the name is.
No, it was after Village. It was the Planning Commission.
Planning Commission. These are the developer volunteers. Some of them are developers, some of them aren't, but we're literally in this process. And basically you go and make your case. If there's any alterations that need to be made, every time that happens, it's a 30-day rollover to schedule the next meeting. So we would get into these meetings, your attorney's behind the scenes trying to get you the votes you need to get approval. And we'd literally show up to these meetings thinking we're going to be okay. We're getting the votes. And then one developer would go, I'll vote yes on your case if you add front porches to every unit. I'm not kidding. And
it's like a game show. Like you have to answer right now, and I'll vote yes. Otherwise, we'll come revisit it in a month.
And we're like, this could be a $300,000 line item to do concrete patios across this. Like, we don't know what this means, and we're expected to make a decision. So we obviously say no because that's the responsible thing. We go back to the drawing table. There's another 30 days. So this was our experience, and we're like, this is not the way to do this. And so meanwhile, we're living in Arizona. We have nothing going on yet. This is kind of it. We're going through our savings. We're trying to figure out what our next few moves are. And, we obviously saw the need with COVID for backyard offices and had heard and seen some other concepts and things of that nature in other places. And basically, I went and got a rendering of a concept for a backyard office guest house. We knew a contractor at the time, basically said, hey, could you build this? Classic contractor. Oh, that's easy. I'll be sitting on a beach drinking Mai Tais while these are getting built all over the city. It's going to cost this much, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. We take the renderings. We create a website. Again, we have the marketing background. Jared starts running ads and the phone starts ringing immediately. Like that week.
The first week we sold our first one. After launching the website and getting everything going, like it was instant.
So now we go from, sort of attempting to be real estate developers to, okay, I guess we own a construction company and a design company, and we're going to start building these things. Again, just super green. We didn't know what we were doing, figuring it out. Everyone around us telling us how easy everything is, and classic experience. Just our first several projects, we just way underpriced. We made no money, learned everything the hard way. But ultimately, what happened through that kind of that early learning experience is we brought everything in house. So we realized like we need to own construction, we need to own design, we need to own permitting. So we kind of went vertical and took control of the bidding process, hired really, really good people, and expanded the product line, enhanced the website, and kind of just continued to refine things. And through that, we became, real experts at what we were doing. Now, as Jared said, we've done 107 residential ADU projects. And these are not just, 400, 500 square foot guest homes. These go all the way up to 3,000 square feet, people using them as single family homes. And so that's it. Basically, we said, let's create a system where people can see what they're going to get. It's got a designer architectural aesthetic. The pricing is transparent. The unknowns are transparent. So we tell you up front, hey, if we don't know whether or not your electric panel needs to be upgraded, that's a variable that we're going to come discover when we come to your site. That's going to be added onto the cost. And if any change orders occur, anything we did not predict, we're not going to mark it up because that's fair. We agreed to a contract. We have profit within that contract. If something changes that's negative for the consumer, we shouldn't be the beneficiary. And so that's the way we've structured things. And we've kind of become the number one guest home ADU builder in Arizona and one of the largest in the country.
That's great. And for our listeners, we're going to have some pictures. And if you can, whoever's tuning in, if you guys want to talk a little bit about some of your projects, that'd be great.
Yeah. So currently we offer 4 models: Flex, Live, Live Plus, and the Dwell. That rendering is an interior of the Live Plus. That unit's about 740 square feet. The Live and the Live Plus are our best sellers. Basically, it's everything you need guest house. You could rent it out. You can use it as an office, as a gym. It comes with all the cabinets, the appliances, the counters. It comes with everything that you need for it to be livable in that pricing that's shown on our website. Of course, we have plenty of upgrades available if you want the sexy cabinets and the quartzite countertops and all the nice stuff. You can always do that. But even our baseline packages are awesome. And I would say probably 80 to 85% of our clients, they just stick with the standard options.
Yeah. What about like you said change orders? If you guys run into issues, are your clients doing any changes along the way?
If there's a client selected change order in the process, we profit. There's a margin added on, of course. Sure. To give you an example of like a surprise, I'll give you guys a real life example of something that happened. So we built a project in Phoenix, and in the location that we anticipated putting the unit, it actually turned out that there were basically like not ancient, but very old tree roots from some tree that had been removed, 20 years ago or however long, that were underground right where the slab had to be poured. And they were huge, like, 3 foot thick, roots. They were really crazy. And they actually all had to be removed by hand and cut back accordingly. And it just kind of was a process. We didn't know that. The client didn't know that. It's unfortunate. Sure. But we don't have, we can't see underground when we come to do the feasibility study. And so in a situation like that, hey, you're simply paying the cost to remove this. We're still managing the process. So we're actually losing money because we have man hours associated. But we're not going to mark it up and profit from something that no one here could have predicted. And so that's
a
just
good example.
Yeah. And those kinds of things come up typically. That's what we see with variable.
It's usually underground.
It's usually underground items. There's an irrigation line we hit. You didn't know it was there. We didn't know it was there. Okay, let's get it
There's
fixed.
also sometimes things that municipalities will do where, like if you're doing a panel upgrade and connecting to a transformer, they may just decide that instead of upgrading this transformer, they want to add a new transformer, and you're just kind of at their mercy. And so that's like another example of just like things that will happen that you can't really predict that are just not in anyone's control.
Yeah, I was thinking like about properties on septic.
That's very common, yeah. And sometimes, well, that's usually pretty predictable. The only thing that's usually not predictable in that is if you end up running into a hard dig and they have some kind of like caliche soil situation or something like that. But other than that, the septic tanks and sewer situations are very predictable.
And we design them, engineer, and install septic systems.
We do all that, yeah.
Well. So we've probably done 30 plus septic systems. Yeah, and
So
it's
the ADU is going to get their own septic system. Do you ever try and tie into the existing
You
one?
can if it's big enough. It's usually not big enough because usually these houses were built some time ago,
Yeah.
and they change the rules for septic tanks for the required space in them. So usually you have to add a new one. Sometimes you'll have to, depending on the city, like, but if you're in Scottsdale or Paradise Valley where there's a lot of septic tanks, sometimes they'll make you bring the sewer in the street, maybe
was
it's
wondering
500
that too.
feet away
Yeah.
up to the property and tie into it, which
So
is
the main
something that
house
we
is
deal
on
with as
septic,
well.
and then the ADU's on sewer.
They make you put everything on
they
the
make you put
sewer.
it all on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the whole house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of their way of expanding their infrastructure on your money.
Yeah.
It's a shakedown,
Exactly.
but it just is what it is.
So at what point in the process would you find that out?
That we would know from the beginning beforehand, because before we start any project, we'll do a full feasibility study for the project where we're looking at the zoning, the building code, the setbacks. We're talking with the city to confirm any easements, anything like that, sewer connections, all of those items. Then we go out to the property, stake the footprint of the unit out, basically account for all of the site costs. Are we removing a tree, or we're dealing with a septic tank, whatever it might be. Get all of that stuff lined out so we know exactly what it is. Give that quote to the client. That's the agreement. And then beyond that, if any unknowns come up outside of that, then those are the items that are being done at cost. But generally speaking, we're pretty good at covering just about everything.
and
from the
that's
start.
really where we're different, I think. Again, we've done over 100 of these projects. When we come out and do a feasibility study, this is not Joe Schmo, the contractor, coming out going, I can build for this price per square foot, and you have no idea what materials are involved. They didn't look at your panel. They didn't look at anything. They're just giving you a rough number to try to get you under contract.
Because once you start working with them, at that point, contractors are super, super protected. Where once you start working with them, if things change, you're kind of responsible to take care of that change. Otherwise, they're off the hook for damn near everything.
And they'll sue you for the lost profit on the project.
Yeah. So they don't. It's kind of the opposite, where it's like if a regular contractor comes out to your property, they'll tell you what something costs to build. If they miss things, it's not that big of a deal because you're kind of on the hook for it either way.
I mean,
the
there's
project
also
needs
like
to be
a hard
done.
bid versus cost plus.
There is that as well. That's definitely rare for
Yeah.
someone to give a hard bid.
No
Or
one-
usually, if they're going to give a hard bid, they're going to give you a really high number, so they make sure that they're protected in that.
Right.
No one's really doing hard bids anymore because of COVID. Because there were people who did hard bids, and
It's definitely more rare.
Wood prices went up
Change it, yeah.
800%,
Yes.
and people were getting sued. So it's rare. It's more common in commercial, and they'll just gouge you.
Or even if we're giving you a hard bid, we'll give you a hard bid, but there's going to be a lot of exclusions in there. We're going to give you a hard bid, but that doesn't include if there is, a hard dig underground. That doesn't include, things that the city might decide for sewer or electric or whatever. So you're
Well,
going to have exclusions
you have a product. You're pretty much giving the consumer in a way a hard bid, like you're protecting them in a way that they don't have to.
Well, we
even
know,
consider
and
something like
that's
that.
something that will never change. When we tell you that's the price of the unit, that's the price of the unit. That none of those items are going to change.
Yeah.
Because we know that. Like
We have no
we can
incentive to hit you with change orders because we're not going to profit on them.
Right.
That's the
Right.
point. It's just the incentive structure.
So it really just reverses it, where it's like our incentive is to cover everything up front and make it all as known as possible to you, just black and white. Because beyond that, now we're just dealing with things for free. So it's just sucking for both of us if we have to deal with it, and why would we want to?
It's funny because now in the first 3 years of business, we really had no competitors here. And now there's all these like copycat companies that are popping up.
Taking all the same policies and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and they're also literally taking some of our designs, some of our renderings, like the degree to which they're copying us is like so close.
which we don't care
We
at
don't
all.
care.
Be flattered.
Imitation
But
is
it's
the
just
greatest form of flattery, right?
It's just
It's kinda
interesting
funny.
to see. Yeah.
But what's interesting is like we'll go do some quotes for people, and they'll say, "Oh, I had so and so come out and provide us a quote," and we'll say, "Can we see it? Like we're interested to see and learn, and did they see something we didn't see or whatever." 90% of the time, that quote has no site work. They didn't look at the panel. They don't know if you're upgrading the water meter. There's $40,000 of costs missing. And so people look at our quote and they go, "Oh, your quote's higher." Yeah, but it has everything.
Right.
But
There are
usually
no
what we'll tell
surprises
people
here.
too is like even if you are shopping things around, which we would recommend doing, shop things around for builds, for mortgages, for everything. Get the best price you can and the most information you can. Go through our process, get this documentation, and use that as kind of like your North Star to judge these other contractors that you're talking to and see if they're seeing all of the same things.
We've
they're
never
probably not.
we've never had a situation to this date where someone goes, wow, this contractor was really thorough and got several things you guys missed. It's never happened. So
It sounds like you're really putting yourselves on the side of the consumer.
totally.
Which is different for sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned financing. When it comes to financing, is this something that people can easily finance, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's super easy. I mean, usually what people are doing right now, before there was a lot of refinancing going on, not so much anymore. Now people are really doing two main things. One is a home equity line of credit, which the rates are incredible for. Our clients who are doing that are usually like, let's just say an average build is 300 grand. They're getting a home equity line of credit at a pretty good rate and building these things, renting them out, and then cash flowing them immediately and actually being profitable on them right out the door. Another thing that people are doing is something called a home style renovation loan. And so one, if you're just a personal buyer, or if you're an investor and you're looking at purchasing a property and you really want a guest home, or say it's a 3-bedroom and you know that you're going to need a 4th bedroom, or you know that in the near future one of your aging parents is going to come and live with you, something like that, they'll wrap all of that into one mortgage for you. So basically you're buying $1 million house and you're building a $300,000 guest home. They'll do a $1.3 million loan for you. And then as we build the project, they'll just pay us directly that $300,000 for the build. And then it just goes into one loan for you. The other thing that people are doing too is like you can have 2 doors on every single lot basically in Arizona.
So that's what I was going to ask about as well, was the rule
It's
changes
3 in
that
Phoenix, actually.
Sean mentioned.
Yeah.
We're not experts on all of the rule change, because also what's happening is like all these different municipalities, their attorneys are like interpreting it and they're coming out with their new code. So we're still kind of figuring it out. The reality is, though, we never struggled to put an ADU on any property.
You always could, yeah.
Yeah, like
the
you
biggest
really could
difference
always do it.
though is like so Arizona came out with this legislation where they said now every property in Arizona can have a guest home or ADU. Here are the rules for it. You can't tell people that they can't do this, or just, make up your own rules as you please for them. And a couple of cities were already doing that. Like probably 4 months before that, Phoenix already came out with their own legislation basically saying that. Same thing with Tempe. So once they came out with that legislation, the main thing that they changed was they just gave people even more property rights, saying basically you can build up to 1,000 square feet, but most importantly, you can have 2 full kitchens on each property, and the properties can be rented separately. Mm-hmm. So you can have 2 completely separate doors that you can advertise and rent as individual properties on each lot. So if you're an investor and you're going out and looking at cash flowing properties, you can buy the main house, or you could even tear it down and build whatever main house you want, build a guest house, and start renting both of those out separately, which is kind of interesting.
It's really interesting, and it just solves like the density issues is what I think the goal of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll help somewhat. Who knows? Maybe it'll be really helpful.
Yeah.
I think it's a win for both sides of the aisle, because for people on the right, it's more property rights. For people on the left, it's a housing issue. So it's like it's just kind of a crowd-pleasing political issue that most states are adopting, and it's pretty, uncontroversial. There are people who are upset saying like, oh, every neighborhood's going to be an Airbnb neighborhood or whatever. We haven't seen that at all.
Yeah,
like,
people are not using them
for
so
Airbnb.
much. Like there's a certain percent, maybe 5%, that are using them for Airbnbs and rentals and stuff. Mm-hmm. All like 75% of the time, people are using them for multi-generational housing, for aging parents, for kids, for things like that. The rest are using them for just guest homes, pool houses, entertaining spaces, place for guests to stay. And then maybe 5% of them are using them for investment properties. Mm-hmm. Maybe that will change in the future because of the legislation, but we haven't been seeing that.
Yeah.
yet.
You mentioned about people purchasing a house and adding one. I was thinking your business is more people already live in their house and they need to expand and they're doing guest house or gym or office. It is interesting from a real estate perspective when we have clients that we're looking at properties and they need, so what percentage are buying the house and hiring you to add to it
We've got
versus people just expanding their own?
Most of them.
We've got several of those though right now.
Yeah, the most common case though is someone has a property, they know they need more space, they don't want to leave their 3% interest rate for 7% interest rate because it just doesn't balance. And so they just improve
So
their own
could you
property.
come in during like a due diligence period?
Absolutely.
And like
Yeah,
quickly give
that's
them a
exactly
quote
what
on
we
it
would
is?
do.
48
So
hours.
if someone's looking at a house and they know they want to build a guest house, you don't have to be contingent on the property or anything. But
And tying that into the
but if you
mortgage
are,
and stuff.
if you've gotten an offer accepted, we'll come out, within 48 hours, put together all the numbers for you for everything. Within another 48 hours, we'll have everything over to you so you can make a completely informed decision and know exactly what it's going to
Yeah.
cost to accomplish that
You
project.
guys need to be networking with the luxury realtors.
We are.
Yeah.
And I think it's great for realtors because you might have a client who's buying a house and it's perfect. It has everything they need, but they're like,
It happens
needs
all the
a
time.
gym, needs an office.
Right.
And
All
the
the time.
idea of building something is a nightmare unless they've heard of us. And it's like, these guys have done this 105 times. They have 50 reviews online. Like it's going to be seamless.
The other thing that's nice too is like it's because it's something that's happening outside of your property. It's very different than a remodel. It's just much less intrusive where you're not going to have dust in your house and constant noise and stuff like that. It's kind of happening separately in the backyard or wherever on the property, which is just a little bit nicer for people if you're going to be doing construction on your property.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and I think we've talked to numerous people, listings and buyers that we've had of, well, you could add, there is room to add something here. So it would be nice to, now that we know you guys, to kind of bring you in and say, hey,
Yeah.
this is how
And the
quickly we could do
style
it.
is this is we really specialize in modern architecture and anything art with architecturally significant. So your guys' style really fits into the type
Yeah,
of
and it's
clients
like
we
that's
have
not
also.
those aren't the only aesthetics either. We match people's properties if they want to. It's not as common that they want to do that, but if they do want to, we'll match their house exactly, or do different aesthetics and stuff. So
we're coming out with more
right.
designs and models as well.
Okay. I was kind of wondering, like, what is the difference between what you're doing and a traditional guest house or tiny home even? I think it's just your process. There's
nothing different than a traditional guest house. A tiny home is usually actually tiny. So like you'll walk into the bathroom or whatever and like you're bumping into walls, like it's small. Like there's nothing about our units that are tiny. Everything is full size, large, like full height glass, 9-foot ceilings. Like they feel very expanded and livable. Tiny homes are usually like actually tiny and usually on wheels. The other thing is a tiny home is not typically considered real property, quote unquote. So banks are not going to finance it the same way. You could treat it maybe the same way that people do mobile homes and like abandon the whatever the title to it and fix it to the property. I don't know how that works exactly.
But you're not adding value to your property by doing that.
Buying a tiny home is similar to buying a car.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Rather than buying property that actually is going into your property value. Because like for us, the clients that we're building for, like say you have a client in Arcadia, they're building somewhere where their property value in their neighborhood is $700 a square foot for new construction. We're usually building for them for, $350-ish a square foot, something like that. And so the moment that that's done, it's adding more value to their property than what they're paying for it. So for some clients, you're kind of making money on the build in regards to your property value.
Yeah, 100%. So I think I know the answer to this question because I saw a TAN post about single family detached. Are you guys going to be branching into residential, full residential?
Yeah, I mean, and really that was kind of always our vision, was take the same process, the same transparency, see it before you get it, work with one brand, one team that's vertical, that's handling everything. And we're coming out with a full line of single family homes.
The same issue that exists for guest homes exists for full-size homes.
Yeah.
It's the same exact thing, same confusing process with your architect. How much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? Getting multiple bids from builders. There's just so much confusion and just...
Yeah, it's decentralized. The incentives are bad. The companies that are vertical, most of their designs are really bad, or they're spread too thin and their quality kind of sucks. And so we want to be that designer, what we would call sort of affordable luxury, where like what we've always believed is, why can't you just go online, see a really cool designer house and work with one company to get it built with price transparency?
Yeah.
Like the fact that we're where we are this far into a country that's been building with the same method for how many hundreds of years.
Just
and that's
really
not,
archaic.
That's not like common is just weird.
It's super surprising, honestly. Like, I feel like neither of us could believe that's like, this is how this works. Like, it's crazy that.
Well, it's kind of like what Elon's done with Tesla, right?
Yeah. And buying a home or building a home should be similar to just building a car online, building your Tesla or whatever it is and ordering it. And then it shows up.
But that was novel in the car industry. So what you're doing, I think, is even more, novel in this industry.
Yeah.
Of saying, hey, we're going to tell you exactly what it is. I mean,
you
of
can
course,
come see
there's
it, feel
maybe
it, touch it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too, like, it's actually a nice product. Like, it has a designer feel to it. It's not like, because there are, like he was saying, there are other companies that have a similar thing where you can order kind of a production home. I mean, I think like, what company was it? Maybe Sears was
and
doing
Roebuck
that,
used
like
to do that. Yeah.
like in like the 60s, you could order a house out of their catalog. Like, people still have those homes and live in those homes. That's been around for a long time.
Even
I don't know what their policies were.
The problem with that was, though, that was a kit, and then it had to be built by a local contractor. So it came back to the whole decentralized issue where
it?
Yeah,
I don't know exactly how it
if that
works.
contractor didn't build it correctly, or he was a nightmare.
So
or
they
whatever,
were selling plans. Is that right?
They were kind of doing what Amazon.
I thought they were doing the whole thing.
No, it was
unfamiliar with all of
plans.
this.
It was plans and material.
Yes. Yeah. My grandparents had a
interesting.
Sears and Roebuck home on their
Yeah.
farm.
The people were building them themselves because
People were building them
because
themselves.
everybody used
Forward,
to
I just
I
think
want one of these
that is.
catalogs.
Yes.
I just think that
Very
is
they're cool to
so
look
cool.
at. It's like $2,000, and it's
Yes.
like you get a whole house.
So
with
like,
everything.
the idea, or like at least things circling it, have been around for a long time. I just think maybe it's just never been executed in the right way. And again, like, having something that you can have done in that same way, that's simple and easy, but also has like a designer modern feel to it, is kind of the niche.
I think, before we end, we're going to let you guys tell us like how we can reach you or how the listeners can reach you. But is there a model home? Is there somewhere that people can go and view your product and feel the finishes and see what it looks like?
Yeah. So when people just schedule with us on our website, you can go tour units anytime.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So for the ADUs, we have a couple models that we show people. And then for the single family homes, so we're kind of slow rolling that. We have our first 3 spec homes that we're building. We've got one in Scottsdale, one in Arcadia Light, and one in Arcadia proper. They're all a little bit different. Really, really cool though. Again, designer aesthetic, not your typical spec house. Quality build, designed by us, built by us. And then we're going to be launching these models on our website probably in the next week. So
What kind of price point are we looking at for the homes?
basically $1 million up. So
Yeah, like
Depending on the area, obviously.
Well,
that's
no, not
without-
depending on the area.
These
well,
are for the models,
for the
yeah.
spec homes that we're doing. Those are anywhere from like 2.5 to 6.
Okay.
But for the actual models that we're releasing, because the next thing that we're doing is the same way you go to our website right now and you see, our 4 ADU products, make them semi-custom, design them how you want, so on. We'll have the same thing. We'll just have homes next to it, and there will be 2,500 to 5,500 square foot homes. Same thing, multiple models, different colorways and finishes,
So the
and
client
so on.
just needs to come in with the land.
And those will be those homes themselves will be anywhere from like $1 million to $2.5 million, depending on the size, because they vary dramatically. But yeah, in that scenario, the client will essentially, there's really 2 scenarios. They're either going to say, hey, I have a lot I want to build on, or I want to tear down my house or this house and build on this property, or I don't really know, but you guys know what lots are good, so let's find a lot together and pursue this together and go build it.
And if you as a realtor, if you have a client looking for, let's just say, a $2.5 million house in Arcadia Light, and they don't like their options, well, there's plenty of tear down opportunities. You guys can work with us. We'll give you a commission on the construction contract.
Yeah. So you'll get 2.5% of the construction contract value, and you'll get the acquisition of the new property. So you'll still get all of your commission on what it would take if they're not, like, my parents are trying to move out here right now, and I mean, I don't think they're super snooty or anything, but they don't like any of the houses that they're seeing in these price points.
Yeah.
They're looking for something like 2.5 to 3.5 million, and they're like, this just is
Gilbert
not cutting it. Like,
has some great
Yes, we were recently in
options.
Gilbert.
Love it.
They're
yeah,
beautiful.
they're just like they just don't like it. So they're like, okay, let's build, because we can build something way better
Yeah, you
for
might
this
as
price
well.
than what we're doing here.
Well,
So,
I love that you guys are collaborating with the real estate industry too. So I think that'll come back to definitely help you guys as well.
For sure.
Working with us. So I think we should go with some rapid fire now. Do you think so, Brittany?
Yeah, for sure.
Can I also just say too, because
Yeah.
we've mentioned a few times, like you're like, we sometimes have clients and they're looking at maybe adding on or something like that. If any agent brings us a client who wants to build a guest home, we have a $5,000 referral fee too.
That's great.
Yeah.
So it's great for our listeners to know. Okay, so rapid fire. You guys can each answer each question. It's supposed to be light, one word or one sentence. What is one feature every ADU in Phoenix must have?
Windows.
Yeah, I would say minimum 9-foot ceilings.
Okay.
Okay. What's your favorite local spot in Phoenix to unwind? Doesn't have to be in Phoenix, in the Valley.
Probably the spa at Omni.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a good one.
To unwind my house.
Yes.
If I'm unwinding, I want to go home. Yeah.
With the 9-month-old unwind with the
Yeah,
baby
there's
at
not
home?
much of that going on these days.
Oh, okay. Okay, city or mountain views?
Mountain views. Here, mountain views.
Okay.
Maybe in LA, city views. Yeah.
I like my Arcadia views, so I
Okay.
guess mountain views.
Okay.
You get both there.
What's the craziest request a client has ever made for their ADU?
Craziest we had a client who wanted to paint the whole unit blue. They wanted blue cabinets, blue sinks.
Electric blue cabinets.
Yeah, like
not
I don't mean this
regular
blue. I mean like
electric blue.
there's not even a blue you could find.
But
that's
didn't
this
that guy
bright
want to
blue.
build like a bunker and like all that?
That
stuff
that was
too?
another one that we had. Yeah. But
And did you do it?
the blue one happened. The bunker did not happen.
Okay.
But yeah,
They painted the unit red, right?
or maybe it's red
They
with
did
blue
the outside
accents.
red. They did the inside electric blue. Like obviously against our recommendation, but if that's what you want to do, it's
Yeah.
yours.
It's not going on our Instagram. That's for
But
sure.
it's yours.
Hey, it's
I'm sure
theirs,
it turned
right?
out.
Yeah.
I'm sure it turned out.
Whatever
well.
makes you happy.
What's the best Phoenix neighborhood for ADUs? Or maybe your favorite?
I mean, I would say probably Arcadia, but
I would say best. The first thing your mind goes to is like if you have a big lot. So I would say Paradise Valley probably.
Yeah.
yeah.
You don't need a big lot at all. We've built on the smallest lots in Phoenix and it works great. But if you're saying best, probably PV.
Yeah. And I can imagine you said Arcadia just because that's probably where you get a lot of demand because people want to be in Arcadia, but they just need the extra space. They need to expand.
And
So-
there are bigger, flatter lots a lot of times in Arcadia as well.
Yeah.
I can imagine flat lot might be a little easier
Yeah.
to do what you do.
Yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
All right. Well, Zander and Jared, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your knowledge with us and our listeners. We are going to link all of your contact information in our show notes, but could you tell our listeners where to find you?
Yeah. Just go to minimallivingconcepts, that's plural.com. You can go to our Instagram. Our website has a lot of like our renders and our product imagery. Our Instagram has a lot of like active projects, things under construction, client reviews, things of that nature. So
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for being on our show. That's it for today's episode. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe, like, and rate.
Thanks to our guests for sharing their insights, and thank you for learning about everything modern with us.
And if you're ready to take the next step in your real estate journey, please reach out to us at Bespoke Real Estate. And until next time, keep living, loving everything modern.